Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 2023 Meta Hacker Cup Finals live stream reveal. We have some wonderful problems today. All the contestants have just spent 4 hours in their very stressful contest. We're about to reveal what the final scoreboard looks like. Today, we have 6 different problems. One of them has 2 parts. And before we jump into the scoreboard, we want to thank all of the people who helped make this happen. So as you know, all of the problems for every Hacker Cup round are completely unique. They're written by our team of judges here at Meta. And we want to thank them for making that happen. We want to thank our t-shirt distributors for making sure all of you get the prizes that you've earned. And we want to thank the producers who are helping us live, and especially our executive sponsor, Hasri, who helped make all of this possible. All right, I'll hand it off to you, Zeph. Do you want to describe what Hacker Cup is and what we're doing here today?
Yeah, thanks, David. And it's great to be back. I'm happy to be here. As many of you know, Hacker Cup is a coding competition. We have a number of rounds from, I think we had a practice round this time, and then 4 competitive rounds getting to the finals here today, starting with over 20,000 registered competitors, narrowing it down to the 25 finalists that competed in the competition that just finished a few minutes ago.
We'll take a look at their pictures here. We got screenshots of what they all look like, or at least almost all of them. And yeah, they have their meta handles here. They're representing countries around the world, and it's great to see them compete and see how they do.
Yeah.
All right, we'll jump into the scoreboard here. We'll start revealing these questions. And the way this works is, right now, what you see is what all the contestants see in their scoreboard. So they get to we'll submit to all of the problems that they want to, but only their last submission counts, and they only have 6 minutes to make those submissions. If they don't, what happens, Zeph?
Well, they get a time limit exceeded, no points for that submission or lack thereof.
And in order to get any points, you have to pass not only the cases that we show you in the test, but you also have to pass all of the hidden cases that we generate. You have to get every single one of them right. So you see here all of the submissions that have been made, and we'll reveal one by one which ones are correct, all the way up to who gets first.
Should get pretty exciting at the end, don't you think?
We'll see. Hope so. Some years it's been more exciting than others, but hopefully we have a good scoreboard in store for us today. All right, let's take a look at the bottom of the scoreboard. First submission we have is from Nikita. We will jump into it here.
Yeah. See, we got some nice animation. Submission to problem C. That was correct. You see them go all the way up. Let's move on to the next submission. I am Noob, otherwise known as
Burned Chicken. Is this Codeforce's handle?
Also correct. We have some early submissions to problem C. And now Grumpy Gordon's submission to A1.
Is Ramazan. You may know him as Never Give Up on Codeforces.
That was also correct. And you see them moving up with their time penalty. Now Kentaro's submission to problem B, also correct. We'll have to keep an eye out for our first incorrect submission. Neil, we've seen Neil a number of times before. How did Neil do on problem B? That was correct. Also moving up into 4th place for the time being. Now Keita, also correct to problem B. So Keita will move up into 5th place. Now Hirotaka, that's correct to problem B. Problem B and problem C is pretty popular so far.
We saw a lot of people start with them. Although A is usually the easiest problem, because A1 and A2 combined had quite a high total, that meant that solving the full version of A was actually pretty hard. So I think a lot of contestants started with B because they may have gotten scared off by that. We've got Peter here. Peter's a very well-known contestant. I think he has 3 Hacker Cup wins under his belt. He was a champion from long ago. Didn't make it last year, I don't think, but this year he's back and doing great. Anton Trigub, AC on A. He has written over 130 problems, including 3 game theory ones, at least, that we were able to find. And we got something special here happening. Zeph?
Yeah, we have a dark green, which I believe means that was the first correct submission to this particular problem. We see only a 50-second gap with Peter, but still very impressive for a submission day 1.
Why is it so important to solve questions fast?
Well, it's all about penalty. Ultimately the goal is to get the highest score possible, but there's very likely to be ties at the end. And so the person with the lowest cumulative penalty, where the penalty is the time from the start of the contest to your correct submission, is the tiebreaker. As low a time as possible wins the contest.
There are a lot of strategies we see contestants use. Last year, you may remember, Ben Q, who was our reigning champion. He's also here this year as well, currently in 13th place. We haven't revealed any of his submissions. My money is on that he got at least one of them right, though. We saw Ben Q, he didn't get any dark greens, but he still ended up winning. And part of that was because he looked at which questions other people were tackling that were easier and went after those. So there are a lot of different strategies you can use depending on what your goals are and whether the dark greens are something that's important to you or you don't care too much about the eternal glory of being first to get something.
I think that was our first correct submission to problem D so far in the reveal. And let's see, Rainbow's submission to problem B, also correct. So still, I think, no incorrect submissions so far.
Zeph, have you heard what Rainbow tends to do in Code Forces rounds?
I have not.
So Rainbow has this strategy. Every Code Forces round that I've ever seen him compete in, he'll solve problems from hardest to easiest, which is very atypical. Almost everyone will do easiest to hardest. Code Forces has a little bit different of a scoring system, but it's quite funny. And fun fact, Rainbow is actually the lowest Code Forces rated user here today. He's blue on Code Forces. He's an expert. Now, I would argue he has a lot more talent than many of the experts you'll see around. But it's very fun to see him today, and maybe that's some inspiration for you. If you're higher rated than Rainbow, maybe you can try and qualify for finals next year.
We'll also have to see how that strategy pays off for them.
It's true. It's true. It looks like he went for B first, so maybe he's not going for it in finals.
Now, Kohei, problem C, that's correct as well. So they'll move up into third place for the time being. Now, Mola. That's correct for problem A1. We'll stop periodically and talk about the problems as well, but let's keep going for just a little bit. Kusaga's submission to problem C, that's correct.
Yeah, Kusaga promised to write a Code Forces round when T1 won a League of Legends championship. They just did. So congratulations there. He's on the hook for that.
Zichian was correct. And now lyrically, as they are known, A1, that's correct. Now Raidwoosh, submission to problem B, incorrect. So that's our first incorrect submission we've seen so far. We'll move on to problem C. How did Raidwoosh do? That's correct. So they are on the board and they will move up into third place for the time being.
So how is it possible that Raidwoosh ended up getting problem B incorrect?
I mean, maybe we'll have the chance to ask them.
It's true. Yeah. If they're in the top couple, we might be able to ask. It turns out that although we give contestants some of the cases, we don't give them all of them. So Raidwoosh probably passed all of the cases that he knew about, but there are other cases that are known to be allowed in the problem by the input bounds. And for some of those, his code was not right.
Yeah. So just passing the cases that we give you doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a right answer.
Exactly. You have to think about anything that might possibly be allowed by the input bounds. Quite tricky. We had another submit to B from Umnik here. We'll look at this. Looks like he gets it right, so lots of corrects on B. And we'll take a look at problem B here. Problem B was called transposing tiles. You may be familiar with last year's contest. We had tile transposing, which is the same thing flipped around. And that's exactly what the problem was. You have a series of diamonds in a grid, different types of gems. You flip them around. It's similar to the game Bejeweled, if you've ever played that. And the idea is for this problem, you want to get rows of 3. Now, the different thing about this problem, which makes it a little bit harder, instead of just making one move, you're making 2. And you have to keep track of how that move might interact with the other move you made. So if those moves are close together, you might make one really long line, and you have to be careful to not miscount that.
How would you say this falls in sort of the overall easy to hardness ranking of the contest today?
Well, as far as the other contests, I'd say this is a pretty tricky problem, but for this contest, I would say this is probably the most straightforward of them. I would say like if there were one problem that I had to race to, I think B would be the fastest I could get.
So it probably explains why we see a bunch of submissions and right answers so far.
Yeah, it was also, if you count the total for A1 and A2 points together, B was also the lowest point problem. So it's only 13 points, but it makes sense to go for that quickly because if you're able to get it quickly, then it helps your penalty time.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll jump back into it with Maroon RK here. He is a admin at @Coder, not the original RNG58, but he's very well known there. We also have Ben Q, our champion from last year, returning champion. This year we have our returning champion, Ben Q. We have Tourist, who's won 4 times, and Peter, who's run 3 times. So we have all sorts of champions competing today. And one more submit here. We got a submit from Jiang Li on problem C. It's a different color, Zeph. Do you want to explain what that means?
Yeah, is that a dark green?
It is.
See, I think that means that was the first correct submission in the entire contest.
Also known as First Blood, some people call it. Yeah. It's the first correct submission, and we were kind of surprised as judges when we saw that S was on problem C.
Yeah, and that's a pretty fast time, just under 19 minutes.
It is, yeah. It's longer than what we saw in some of the other contests, but for how hard these problems are, being able to solve problem C in 18 minutes is pretty quick.
Yeah.
We were expecting, I mean, my personal expectation, I thought A1 would be the first one to be solved. I thought someone would go for the easy points, but that's not what we saw. And if not A1, I thought it would have been B at least, but it wasn't.
We'll see how this bodes for Zhongli and the rest of their submissions. But I think we had Tourist up next. Should we go see?
Oh, we should. We should. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's waiting to see how he did.
I think Tourist was the only person to submit to all of the problems on the scoreboard today.
And yet another dark green.
Yeah, so not surprising coming from Tourist. Fastest submission for problem B. Now, Anton, their submission to problem D, that's correct. And they will move up, I believe, into first place for the time being with the point score. Now, Tatsugami, that's correct to A2. I think that is our first correct submission to problem A2.
It is. We'll talk about A2 later, but yeah, very exciting.
Yeah. Now, Grumpy Gordon, problem C. Is this a good time for us to stop and talk about problem C?
Sure, yeah, let's do that. So problem C, another interesting problem. I would say, in my opinion, problem C is maybe the most classical of the problems that we had in our set today. It was, in my opinion, very unique, but still a very standard-ish graph theory problem. And in this, there are some AIs that kind of take over the world. Humans are coming up with a resistance against that, and they need to choose a base. And then from that base, they're going to try and take over all of the nodes in the graph, all of the other cities, as you were. And they have this superpower where they got to make their starting city more powerful, but obviously that costs some amount. And they want to know for every starting city, how much more would they have to make it powerful in order to take over the entire world. So you got to find some interesting things to do to make the runtime of this a little faster. There are some clever observations there. Yeah. But overall, it's a somewhat reasonable graph theory problem that I think a lot of the contestants here, if they're at this level, are comfortable solving.
So I know you've contributed a number of problems over the years, and I'm curious, when you're writing a problem, do you think about the story first and then a problem type to fit it, or are you really thinking about the problem type and then how do you create a narrative around it? Yeah,
it's a good question. I think a lot of times it depends on the problem. There are lots of problems where you come up with a story and you're like, all right, is this something we can actually solve? And there are other problems where it's like you come up with the idea and like the solution first. And from the solution, you're like, all right, how do I come up with a problem that would use this interesting solution fact that we found? And they're a mix of this. For this one in particular, I'll tell you though that we kind of changed the story from this to make it an interesting story. This could have been with any graph theory things though, so we just thought it would be a little topical with all the AI excitement going on these days.
Very good. All right, let's look at Mola Mola's submission rather to problem B. That's correct, moving them up into third place for now. And now lyrically, second submission we've seen from them. That's correct to problem B. Again, seeing B as a very popular submission so far. Now, Peter, A2, and we have a dark green for A2.
Congratulations to Peter on that. Very impressive. Yeah. We also noticed in the beginning of the contest, Peter started off with A1 and A2. It was a little interesting of a strategy. He ended up with quite a bit of penalty, but he has solutions to B and C in Q, so we'll see how he did there.
Number of more correct submissions. Not very surprising given the quality of competitors that we have. Now Keita's submission to problem C. That's correct, moving them up, believe, into second place. Now Neil's second submission was to problem C. That's correct, and Neil will move up.
We look at Kentaro, another submission to problem C here. Looks like this is an AC. And Maroon RK of @Coder fame, submission to C, it's an AC. Well done, Maroon. Rainboy going sequentially forward this time, but that's fine. These are hard problems. Looks like that's an AC on C. And we got another submission from Umnik, also on C. Quite a few on C today. AC, well done, Umnik, well done. From BenQ, BenQ's got a very good penalty point for the 13 score. Correct on C.
And also a pretty good penalty overall.
Indeed. Here we got TLE. This is TLE from Code Forces. also very, very well known in ICPC recently. Congratulations, Zijin, on performance today.
Hirotaka moves up into third place with their correct submission, and Tourist probably expect another correct submission, and there we have it to problem C. Tourist will move up. Still many submissions from Tourist yet to see.
We have our first 25th place competitor finalized. We'll move on. Other competitors competing for their order within the top 24. Obviously, going into the contest, maybe this isn't what Nikita was hoping for, but finishing 25th over 20,000 people who were registered for this series is very impressive. Yeah. Right? That's roughly the top 0.1% nearly. So congratulations on the performance there. We'll keep going.
Let's look at Supo's submission to problem D. That was correct. And I think we're going to stop here and talk about problem D.
Yeah, let's do that. So problem D was called Nearly Nim. Many programmers who are in the audience might be familiar with the game Nim. Basically, you have a bunch of stones and piles, but in this, we have a nice theme for it. You have some dumplings on some plates. Now, you can eat as many dumplings as you want on your turn, and they all have to be from the same plate. But since this is nearly Nim, not quite Nim, you have to pick a plate near the last plate that was picked. So if your opponent takes from if you got Alice and Bob playing this, right? So let's say Alice takes from the third plate. I have to take from either the fourth plate or the fifth plate. Now, this looks a lot like Nim, but it turns out that minor variation completely changes the solution idea, and that's now a totally different problem. And you need to be able to find out how does the solution work for that. We framed the bounds at least, so that it kind of looked like it would be related to powers of 2, just like Nim is. Turns out it has nothing to do with that. That was just a trick to red herring to throw contestants off. And to make things a little bit harder, we asked not only is this position winning for Alice or winning for Bob, we also asked how many ways can Alice make a move here where she doesn't throw the game, where she's still winning. So it was a pretty interesting problem. This was my problem, one of my favorites. And I hope contestants enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one other interesting question, we look at the submissions from the contestants as they come in. How often would you say is the submission one of the expected answers or approaches that you thought about versus something totally new, hadn't considered at all?
There are a lot of times when contestants will throw us off and just come up with a solution we didn't even know was possible. I don't think that happened for D this time, but it did happen for A2. We'll talk about it later on. For A2, we got thrown for a loop with some of these solutions. And yeah, I mean, whatever works, right? If it works, it works. No, but yeah, for D, we were interesting. One of the things I was really worried about is a scoreboard effect, because sometimes if a question gets solved a lot early on in the contest, then other contestants will all flood to it.
Yeah.
But it turns out that isn't what happened here. And it held up to the strict scrutiny, even though it was solved very early. The other contestants still struggled with it, and still it was tricky for them to solve, which was always great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep going. How did Kusaga do on problem B? Kusaga was correct, so they will move up. Some incorrect submissions so far, but by and large, a lot of correct submissions across the board. Raidush continues that theme with a correct submission to problem D.
We got Jiang Li on problem D as well. It is an AC and a dark green. This is Jiang Li's second dark green. Not a dark green, but another dark green nonetheless. So very impressive to him. Some speedy fingers on the keyboard.
It'd be impressive if you could get 2 dark greens in the contest.
Yeah, I guess that is technically impossible, right?
Tatsugame. And they are correct to problem C. So they will move up. Now let's look at Peter's.
Peter still going sequentially here. Peter has a blog, in case you're not familiar. He names every week with a particular word. I wonder if this will be a sequential week, but we'll hear from him. It'll be coming out soon enough, I'm sure. We got Mola Mola on C. Ryutaru also on C. And it looks like he gets it right. His penalty points for A are quite good, which puts him all the way up into second. And lyrically, on D, the game theory problem. Looks like it's correct. Well done. And we're moving up to Arvin. We had a lot of cheers for Arvin on Code Forces, didn't we?
Absolutely. One more submission yet to see from Arvin, so they can continue to move up. Now, Keita's last submission, I believe, problem D. That's correct. And so they'll move up into first place for the time being.
If nobody else gets any ACs, they'll stay there,
Just stop right here. Kentaro, correct on problem D. Their last submission into second place. And now let's look at Neil.
Neil one time had the same number of friends as rating points. Fun fact about him.
Let's take a pause here, actually. And while we're on Neil, let's talk about problem E.
That's a great idea. So we'll bring up the slide for problem E. Problem E was the other game theory problem in this set, which is somewhat unusual. Game theory problems are pretty hard to come by. And game theory problems they're very interesting because unlike geometry problems, which are a lot of code, not maybe as much thinking, game theory problems are often kind of the opposite. Ton of thinking, not too much code. We were lucky enough to find 2 game theory problems that we felt were very unique because both of them required both some observations and a decent amount of code for this. This required knowing something about the original version of DIM or Sprague-Grundy theorem. And you had to not only do that, but you had to do some observations with it to go a little bit further, maybe using a trie or some other data structure to speed things up. So yeah, it's a problem that involved XOR. We saw Anton Trigub created an XOR contest all on Codeforce or all on CodeChef. So we're interested to see if he was able to use that to his advantage, but we'll see going on here.
So we got Rainbow's submission. I think this is our second submission to problem E so far that we've seen. That's correct. So Rainbow will move up. Now Maroon RK, again, their third submission. Problem D, that's correct. Now Kusaga. Kusaga is correct to problem D. Still 2 submissions left to see from them. Umnik, 3 submissions after their submission to problem D that we're about to see right here. That's correct. And so Umnik will move up. That was Ichian. Other submission to problem E. That's correct. So they're handling our game theory problems pretty well so far.
I know, yeah. I'm impressed by how well they're doing them. They were pretty tough for the judges, but contestants these are the best in the world, right?
Hirotaka, great time penalty, but their last submission of the contest. Now let's look at BenQ.
Our reigning champ.
Correct, still 3 submissions left from them. Tourist, what do you think?
If I had to put money on it, given how much green I see here, I'd say it might be correct.
And
he knows what he's doing.
Now Anton.
Turns out Anton, I guess he didn't quite get to E.
Yeah.
But doing well on B, I guess.
Bit of a surprise. Yosupo, problem E. That's correct. Still 2 submissions to see from Yosupo.
Kaysen on B.
That's correct.
That's an AC there, yeah.
And now Raidwoosh. We'll also see Raidwoosh's submissions to A1 and A2. But they're correct on problem E, and they will move up. Now Jiang Li, who has 2 dark green so far. How'd they do on problem E? Ooh, incorrect on problem E.
And that's got to be unfortunate. One fun fact about Jiang Li, his first Codeforces Div 1 win was again on Tourist Round, around Tourist Road. So hopefully he might want to beat Tourist on this, but didn't quite make it, it looks like, with the wrong answer on E, but we'll see.
Yeah, we did see a correct submission from Peter, although their last submission of the contest. And Kotatsugame, also a correct submission. And now let's look at Arvin, and then I think we'll pause after this. Correct submission to A1, and let's talk about that problem A.
Problem A was a really interesting problem. This was one of the most unique problems I've seen in a while. What you had to do here is create a... One second, let me make sure the scoreboard's not going.
Oh, we have a few more going. Let's get that paused.
All right, cool.
Oh boy.
One sec. Technology is not our strong suit,
despite
creating super hard problems. All right.
Back to problem
Here we go. Problem A. So problem A there was a custom language we created called Drizzle, and a program in this language is basically a 2D grid of a couple characters, basically empty spaces, walls, and command characters. And when you have a program and you execute it, there's a special sequence of events that happen based on, essentially based on a BFS of that grid. So what the contestants had to do is come up with some grid that printed a certain number in this custom language we wrote. Now, I can show you a little bit about it here. We had 2 versions of it, problem A1 and A2. For A1, here is the solution that we intended.
We'll probably post these after the contest.
Yeah, I guess we'll post pictures of them so they're a little easier to see. One of the contestants found an incredibly simple version of it. It was just a spiral, but they did some interesting things with odd and even distances. And this is one of the solutions that was like totally off the cuff. I didn't see it coming. So it was a really crazy thing to see when we were looking at some of the submissions. They were able to do it so simply. But yeah, it was a very interesting thing to see in the solution, and it's very tough to squeeze this down to a 10 by 10 grid.
Yeah, and we also had some challenges with the solution as we were validating the contest. Is that right?
We had trouble running code in D. We were trying to make sure the code in D was correct, and yeah, it was a little tricky in D, and then also with like counting the number of paths, we had a small issue there, but it's all handled, and we've made sure all of the contestant submissions here do accurately reflect the code that they were running.
So definitely a fun problem all around.
All right, we'll head back to the scoreboard. We've revealed a few of these for free, so you guys don't have to wait for us there. And we'll keep going here with Lyrically. Looks like we got a submission to problem E, AC there. And we have a couple finalists who are already decided, Naomi, Neil, and Kita. AC from K-Sun. K-Sun, it looks like this is his last submission. He wasn't able to make it to round 2, but he got a bye from that. He was competing in World Puzzle Championships. Got 9th place in the world in that, representing Canada.
It's like a good enough reason for a bye.
Yeah, fun story there. We'll continue on here with Rainbow. His final submission to problem F. Looks like that's an AC. We'll keep going with Kusaga on E. That's AC correct. There. Well done. Well done.
Now Riku, their submission problem E, until still 2 submissions left to see, although that was incorrect. So we'll see another one right now. Problem F. That was correct, and we have a dark green.
Dark green, yeah. We'll pause here to talk about what problem F was. It was called cacti cartography. Now, many of you are probably familiar with what trees are in competitive programming. You've probably seen binary search tree, something like that. Cactuses are somewhat related to trees in that they're kind of like trees, but instead of there being a bunch of nodes connected, you can have a bunch of cycles. In other words, another way of looking at it is you have basically a tree, except you can have cycles, and every edge can be a part of at most one simple cycle. So we're solving a problem that's maybe not too hard to do on trees, and we have relatively small bounds, but we're doing it on a cactus, which makes things very, very annoying. Dealing with cactuses it's always tedious, and we found that the solution here, at least the intended solution, was very long. Some candidates were able to surprise us a little bit with the solution involving simplex, which is an advanced math linear programming thing. We won't get into that, but yeah, the solution did not involve simplex, and we knew this was a possibility. We had a simplex solution before the contest, but we didn't really expect to see it, although we did.
So it would be fair to say that this problem was a bit prickly, if you will.
Yeah. Indeed.
All right.
That's a great one, Zach. Good job.
Thanks, David. Let's move on to Zixian. Correct on A1. And now Umnik, problem E. Correct on problem E, still 2 submissions from Umnik, so we may see them at the very end here. Now Tourist, only person again to submit to all problems. Correct, not surprising on problem E. And now Jiangli. Correct on A1. Now Ben Q, last year's champion. Not surprisingly correct on problem E, and a dark green for that problem, so the fastest submission to problem E.
Yeah, that's our final dark green. So we've got a dark green on every problem. That tells a little bit about the scoreboard, depending on when people submit, but we reveal the submissions from first to last. So hopefully that's not too much, because everyone's gotten at least one problem right here.
That's one part of a good contest. Is that right, David?
Yeah, when we talk about a perfect set, there are 3 things we try and make as judges. The first one is that everyone solves at least one problem. We got that today. You can see every contestant got at least one problem, so that was wonderful to see. The other part, in addition to that, is that every problem gets solved at least once. And here, since we got a dark green for every problem got solved. And the final requirement is that no contestant solves every problem. Now you'll notice we are at the very least incredibly close to getting that to happen. The only thing that could break it is if all of Tourist submissions are correct.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's going to be a pretty fun reveal.
Yeah, let's reveal the rest of the scoreboard here.
Yeah, Yosupo, their submission to problem A1. That was correct. We'll see their submission to A2 in a little bit, but Raidwoosh also for A1. That's correct, and so we'll also see their submission to A2 in a little bit. Now Zixian. That's correct to A2. Mola Mola, their final submission problem E, will they move up? They will. They'll move up into first place for the time being, but let's look at Zhongli, their submission or problem F, final one for them of the contest. That's correct. And they will overtake in first place. And now let's look at Lyrically. Still another submission after this for Lyrically, but correct on problem C, moving them up into third place. And now let's look at Yosupo. That's correct. Now Raidwoosh, their final submission, A2. Correct, 67 points, time penalty a little bit over 10 hours. Excellent contest. Now let's look at Kusaga, their final submission, correct.
Everything but A2 and F. Yeah, very good, very good. Omnic is submission to the most point problem, F. Looks like it's an AC, puts them into first for now. We got Gennady, very, very well known in the competitive programming community.
Yeah, and still 2 submissions left to see for them after this one. But Ben Q.
Submission to F. Did he get it? He did. Well done. Well done. We got Zijin TLE here. His final submission to problem D. Looks like that's an AC. And we have one more submission from Riku, Maroon RK. Take
a look at this. That's correct.
With that, we have our top 10 finalists decided. All right, Zeph, do you want to tell us a little bit about how good at competitive programming you need to be in order to make it to this level?
You have to be incredible. There's no other way to say it. We had over 20,000 competitors this year, tens of thousands of competitors each year. To be able to make it to the top 10 or even the top 25 is just incredibly impressive. You have to be one of the best in the world to get this far.
Not only do you have to be good in the contest we had earlier, like round 1, round 2, round 3, but in this contest, you're under quite a bit of pressure. There's money on the line. We have a $20,000 grand prize, $40,000 of prizes in total. And even though you've already earned your t-shirt, you've got a lot of people competing against you. And it's at the end of the game, at the end of the day, it's kind of a zero-sum game, right? If you get first, no one else does. So you have to think optimally, choose your problems wisely to make sure you don't get beat on penalty, and do the best you can.
Yeah. So this is where the strategy comes into play. If you take the hardest problem first, could set you up to get dunked at the end.
Yeah, if Rainboy did these in reverse order, and his penalty might not be great if you spend a ton of time on F. All right, so it looks like we have place 10 decided, place 9 by Lyrically. We're gonna take a look at this submission to A2. We haven't gotten any of them seen any incorrect yet,
yeah.
Right?
See how they did on A2. Ooh. Wrong answer for Lyrically, and so that moves us into our final 6 competitors.
It does, but we haven't yet explained this, but we did verify the submission to A2. We did indeed find some issues with it, although the solution was good enough to pass A1, didn't quite make A2, and this submission was actually in language D, so very, very unusual there, but it works. We have some submissions from Gennady here. From Tourist, let's see if they're right.
F first.
Ooh. And it's correct. That moves him into first place for now, but we have more submissions remaining. So with that, we have our top 5 finalists decided. Welcome, folks. You all can read a scoreboard for 5th place here. We have Jiangli. Congratulations and well done. We'll get you up here, ask a couple questions. What were your thoughts on the contest here, Jiangli?
Yeah, I like the problems, and the most my favorite problems is like problem D. Yeah, it's like you first notice some interesting observations, and then it comes to a matching problem, and here comes the greedy algorithm. So I think problem D is the most interesting by me, and Yeah, I feel very regretful for my problem E submission. It's like I made a stupid error that caused some out of range error. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm very humbled that you liked problem D. It really means a lot to me. So thanks so much, and congratulations on your $1,000 prize. Looks like we also have fourth place figured out here. This is TLE. Congratulations once again. Looks like we weren't able to get him quite on Zoom yet, but that's a $3,000 prize. I'm sure he's very proud of it.
Yeah.
And we'll send him home with that. Figure it out over email.
Yeah, we still have some reveals left for our top 3 though. Still some excitement.
We do. We're gonna take a look at Umnick's first because he's in third place. So we're gonna reveal that first. Umnick has 8 hours of penalty time, and he has 81 points, tying with BenQ. So if this is right, he's gonna definitely move up above BenQ for now.
Yeah.
And if it's wrong, he'll stay in third. He might be tourist depending on the time, but we'll see. It is worth exactly 12 points. So yeah, it looks like that puts him at 93 points.
But a pretty big time penalty though, so a little over 2 hours behind.
It's true. So Umnick officially can't win, but he could get second place or third place depending on what BenQ's last submission is.
Yeah. Should we look at that submission? Should we talk about some other things for a little while? What do you think?
Well, I guess we're out of problems here, Zeph. And as much as I love to stall, I think people in the audience really want to see these last two.
Let's look at BenQ's submission.
All right, Ben, did you get problem A?
Correct.
He did, moving him into first place. So
By
for now,
7 minutes.
yeah, super close. That gives us our third place finalist.
Yeah.
Umnick, congratulations, Umnick. Hero of 1,000 Cyans, ICPC champion from Moscow. Well done. Our second place finisher from 2 years ago. Welcome back, Umnick. Congratulations. What were your thoughts on the set here? What was your favorite problem?
Favorite, I don't know. Probably problem G is the most interesting one.
As much as I appreciate that, how about let's make the answers a bit more interesting. Which problem do you think was the most tedious and annoying?
F. I mean, problem F about cactuses always annoying. Like I was even I was sure that it's possible to do in reasonable time, but because F costed 1 more point than A1 and A2, I thought that it's better if I do F in 2 hours, and I even wrote stress test to make sure that my implementation was correct, and found a couple of bugs. And in the last 20 minutes that I had after F, I managed to write A1, which was nice. It didn't change my place, I guess. If I wouldn't the A1 in time, I still would be served. But it was cool to work for the whole 4 hours. Like, you can see that I accepted it in the last minute. So that's nice.
Do you have any advice? I know you're a big help to a lot of people who are training, and have you written some blog posts about this? Do you have any advice for new people to competitive programming, what they should do to get better and learn more?
Solve problems.
There you go. There you have it, folks. All right, thanks so much, Umnick. Congratulations on your $5,000 place and third place finish, or $5,000 prize and third place finish. All right, back to the scoreboard. We have one last submission remaining.
Yeah, it comes down to this.
This will determine our winner. If Tourist gets this right, that would put him in first. We've seen other people get it wrong. We know there are wrong answers to A2 that are possible. And that said, there are only 10,000 possible inputs. So if Tourist wrote a checker, then there's a good chance he gets it right. But it's one of the last problems to look at. He was short on time, so who knows whether he did. Let's take a look. Submission to A2. And he gets it. Oh my goodness. Congratulations, Tourist. What a job. You made it not a perfect set.
And congratulations to Ben Q, last year's winner, our second place finalist. Let's talk to Ben.
Well done, Ben. Congratulations.
Thanks.
We last year we had an interview with you after you won. There's another question I would love to ask. Your profile picture is a cow with red grass and green sky. Do you have any explanation for the color choices there?
I think I just ended up switching to RGB, and then I decided it looked better.
Was this a USACO related thing? I know there are a lot of cows in.
Oh yeah, it's like
It is
from
a
like
very
6
beautiful
years
picture,
ago.
I gotta say. All right.
Sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
It is a beautiful picture.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, just a comment.
Ben, we always love to hear about favorite problems. I would say we'll exclude problem D because David's already been flattered multiple times.
I have.
So outside of problem D, any favorite problems from the contest?
I'd say probably A1 or A2, but since I'm so curious about learning the solution to A2, I didn't have enough time to solve it.
We'll post a picture after this of one possible solution, and when you see this grid, it kind of gives the whole thing away. Although we did have some interesting solutions from others, like Peter's, for example. It doesn't even use a hard-coded grid. It uses a different solution every time, so it's interesting there. What problem did you go for first? Did you attempt A1, or did you jump right into the other ones?
I read A1, and then I decided it would be the hardest problem, and then I went on to B, and I just solved the problems in sequence.
All right. Well, well done, Ben.
And it did end up being the hardest.
Yeah, A2 did have very few solves, yeah. It was up there with F for sure. All right, thanks, Ben. We'll see you around. And this leaves just our champion.
Tourist, congratulations.
Well done, Gennady. Congratulations once again. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, your 5th Hacker Cup win.
Thank you very much. It is correct.
All right, well done, well done. So I believe not only do you have now 5 Hacker Cup wins under your belt, you have 2 ICPC World Championships, which I should add for our viewers is the most it's even possible to get because you can only qualify for World Finals twice. One of those times, I believe you solved set. And then 6 times you got a gold medal at IOI, which is like the high school level International Olympiad for informatics. So you are very well known in the competitive programming and problem solving space. It's an honor to have you here. And congratulations once again on solving set. Were you at all worried when you submitted A2, or did you know before you started that it was going to be an AC?
Yeah, thank you very much. I am around for quite a long time, I suppose. I was not too worried about A2 because I did write a checker, as you said. But I still finished it with like maybe 10-15 minutes to go. So it was pretty close. But the difficulty level was appropriate, and it was one of the most enjoyable rounds of the year, I would say. So thanks for the problems. Yeah, I can also answer the question about the favorite problem. You haven't asked, but
we would love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with Ben probably. I think A was my favorite problem this set, and it was especially spicy that it was problem A. And I did not have that insight that A was going to be the hardest problem of the set. And I did try it in the beginning, after B, after C. Like after each time I went back to A and was like, it's A, so I have to like do it, right? It cannot be hard, but it was very hard. And I eventually solved A as my last problem. It was fun.
When we first came up with A, initially the bounds for the grid were 15 by 15. Then we decreased it to 13 by 13 after we found a better solution. And finally, one of our problem setters here at Meta was able to get Dylan. He was able to get it to 10 by 10, and this was only a couple days ago. So that was what made A2 so hard. And yeah, it's very easy to do if the bounds are big enough. If you can just do 2 pads, but the more you try and cram things in, the harder it gets. And when the limited space, it's like solving a Rubik's Cube or some other puzzle. For A2 Tourist, I haven't had a chance to take a look at your submission. I apologize. Did you have a hard-coded grid? Were you able to find a grid that worked, or did you find a solution that optimized it in some other way?
I did use a grid which was the same for all tests. It was, the only difference was the positions of the instructions, right? And the grid is pretty like non-general. Like I would say I did like try to squeeze it. Like I just tested a lot of things on my computer. I implemented the BFS, like a search for like all possible like states, and just kind of found something that worked eventually. So it was very much of a trial and error work.
Well, thank you very much for all the kind compliments on the set. We really appreciate having you. And congratulations once again on your $20,000 grand prize. For everyone else who's in the audience, we want to thank you for participating in this year's Hacker Cup. If you haven't claimed your shirt yet, you still have time to do that. So you can go to your Hacker Cup profile, follow the link there, and claim your shirt. And we want to thank you all for watching and being part of this. If you like solving problems, Meta is a great place to work. We would love to have you. You can apply on metacareers.com. And we hope to see you next year in the qualification round.
And thank you, David, for doing all the work that you've done and all the folks behind the scenes to make this a great contest this year.
Yeah, thank you, Zeph, so much for coming, help commentate, and for all the support that all the people at Facebook give us.
Absolutely.
All right, have a great day, you guys. We'll see you around. Bye-bye.